What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary, and I'm here with my beautiful wife. Say hi, boo.
Hi, everyone. This is Akdi, and I'm from Turkey. And today we are reviewing one of my favorite musical films, Dreamgirls.
Yes, this is a 2006 American musical drama written and directed by Bill Condon, and it's based on a musical that came out in 1981, if I remember right, on Broadway, and it was written by this guy named Tom Ayen. So this film has a long production history, but this film is like a seminal musical drama of the early 2000s. I mean, it has an all-star cast: Beyoncé Knowles, Jennifer Hudson, Jamie Foxx, Danny Glover, Anika Noni Rose, Keith Robinson. I mean, the list goes on. Eddie Murphy as well. So many great actors, so much great music. I enjoyed watching this film. I didn't watch it when it came out, and it's been out for quite some time, but I've known of the film, and I've heard some of the songs, and I knew that it was very popular. But like when this film came out, it was like popular with the girls in my high school. You know what I mean? So like at that time I was like, oh, I don't need to, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
it's their thing. It's not our thing, the guy thing. You know what I mean?
I understand, but how did you watch Sparkle and not Dreamgirls?
I don't know, because Sparkle, we watched Sparkle before. We didn't review it. We watched it many years ago together. But Sparkle was like, came out similar around that time, and I don't know, I just ended up watching it one day. Maybe I was with my girlfriend at the time or something like that, and she made me watch it. But how did you feel about it when we saw this film a few days ago?
I mean, I saw it like before a couple of times, but it's like I said, it's one of my favorite musicals. I just think like the soundtrack is really good, and you can like just pick up some of the songs and listen to it like on replay. Mm-hmm. Not every song, because obviously there are songs that are just like for that time. And I love everything about this movie: the acting, the costumes, and some of the themes that it has. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think the soundtrack is really good, and if you threw this CD on during a road trip across America, like, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad. It wouldn't be one of those musical soundtracks that would like annoy you after a few spins. Like, actually, the more you listen to the songs, the more you tend to like them. They're like heavily like influenced by 1950s, 60s Black American soul music with a little bit of like the 70s disco tied in there, and they're like really glossy, big budget reimagining of those types of songs that came from that era. And if you're really into that music, you'll like it.
Yeah, and like, but at the same time, it's not like they only have those type of songs. They also have like different types as well, but yeah, it is mostly inspired by that time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just really liked it. What did you think about the overall acting?
Overall acting, see, the thing is about Beyoncé, who plays a prominent role in this film, a lot of people always give her, flack for saying that Beyoncé is a horrible actress, right? She's very stiff on screen and stuff like that. She was the weakest out of the cast for me. As far as my watching of the film, is it as bad as people make it out to be? No. But yeah, it is. When she's standing next to like Jennifer Hudson or Eddie Murphy or Jamie Foxx, people that know how to deliver lines and command the screen, yeah, Beyonce sort of brings down the film. But she is an incredible singer and just a person that you can't help but look at, because it's Beyonce on screen.
Yeah.
But overall, acting is excellent in this film, I would say. But what did you think?
I mean, I can see like how you can think about that about Beyonce. Like, I agree, but I think her acting does get better like gradually in the movie. Like, her first, the vibe of her character at first is a bit like cringe, like the way she delivers lines, but later I think it gets better.
I think you just don't like her character because she's like the good girl. Like, you hate those goody two-shoe type characters.
Yeah, and like, those lines just feel like very polished, and I kind of don't like it. Yeah. But so does the character.
Right.
And but like you said, all of the other cast is like basically, huge stars, great actors and actresses, so everyone else is like pretty good.
Yeah, you get the feeling like when Beyonce was delivering her lines, there were multiple times when they had to yell cut and she was like, give me my line, please. And everybody just did it and went along with it because they were scared of her. That's what it feels like.
I mean, I don't know, but one thing I know, like in one of her documentaries or something, I'm not sure, she does talk about like, you know, preparing for this role. And she did put a lot of effort into it. But, you know, some people just don't have, like, that much of a, you know, acting skill.
Yeah.
But, you know, she did work out a lot. Like, she lost, like, 10 kilos or something to prepare for this role. Plus, you know, she possibly got, like, acting coaches and stuff like that.
Right. Also, you know, I feel like despite her lack of acting skill, there was probably nobody else who could do this film like her, because so much of her musical career mimics the storyline here. You know, being the lead singer in an all-girl group, Destiny's Child, that goes on to sell millions of records, but then you fall out with two other members and you continue to have success and people seem to like hate on you for just being like the pretty face that was in the right place at the right time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Beyonce's life, as far as we have seen, you know, over these years, is her character, right?
Yeah.
It's like as close of a character you can get to your life as possible, which should bring out the best in acting in you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, like you said, as you watch this movie, you see like those parallels between the storyline and her life. And yeah, I think it also gives like a somewhat of like a weird comedic like sense.
Yeah,
you know?
It's almost ironic and very comedic, like a meta comedy. Like it's almost like Beyonce is in a parody of Beyonce, and she doesn't even know that she's parodying Beyonce. You know what I mean? So, but I'm pretty sure like that crossed her mind, and everybody knew it too when they casted her for this. But yeah, let's talk a little bit before we get into the story real quick about the guy Tom Ayan. We looked up his Wikipedia page because we wanted to know like who made this, right? And you know, I'm not surprised it was like a white guy who wrote this play, because the majority of people that are, you know, writing plays and on Broadway producing that type of stuff it's mostly white. And it's, you know, Broadway is like that one sector of entertainment that maybe white folks can claim. Like black folks did everything else. Like we made movies pop, music pop. White people can say, but what you got on Broadway, son? You know what I mean? But Tom Ayan, he wrote a lot of different types of plays, and we were reading his plays and stories, and they are wild just looking at the titles. Like he has a play, one of his earliest plays is My Next Husband Will Be a Beauty. Another play in his early life was The White Whore and the Bit Player. Frustata, the dirty little girl with the paper rose stuck in her head, is demented. Like this man was sick. Like just reading what he wrote down, like the titles alone are just nasty as hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who killed my bald sister Sophie? Or Thank God for Small Favors? I mean, what type of title is that? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like different type of imagination, but I think he did have like some influence on Broadway, because I think he directed like the first pornographic like play or something. So yeah, he had like that type of thing for, you know, erotic art, I would say. And then Dreamgirls was, we imagined like it would be like when he retired and he was like, let me make something like calmer.
Yeah.
You know, and more tame. And then he did like Dreamgirls.
Yeah, like after he was done writing 3 drag queens from Daytona and the dirtiest show in town, he said like, you know what, let me do something for the kids. So Dreamgirls is what happened to be. It was one of his later plays, and it ended up being his most successful, and I think he won a Tony Award for it. He died of HIV like in the early 90s, so rest in peace to Tom Ayan. He's a legend, and at least just for bringing us this play at least. And going to the director, Bill Condon. Bill Condon has had a storied career. He's made quite a lot of other movies. He directed Chicago. Sorry, he was the writer for Chicago, which is, I believe, one of your favorite musicals as well. And of course, Dreamgirls, he won an Oscar for it, or Jennifer Hudson won an Oscar for it as well. And he also did Twilight, which I think Akdi loves.
I don't love it. I just saw it.
But he's also done like The Greatest Showman with who was the
Hugh
guy?
Jackman.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman as well. Beauty and the Beast, Mr. Holmes. So yeah, he's a hardworking guy, and he's working on another musical right now. So this is sort of like his specialty, and it's very hard, I would say, to make musical films, right? Because the music has to be good, acting has to be good, cinematography has to be good, because you're adding more elements to just telling a story, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you have to do like twice the work, because it's not like you're just putting on a soundtrack like between the scenes, but it's more like the music, the lyrics, and the tunes has to carry the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be successful in like doing music, knowing music, understanding music, plus acting. Plus, I think staging and costumes are a big part of like musicals. Mm-hmm. Everything has to be just like on point, because you can see a lot of like, musicals that just don't hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you have to tell a story through a series of music videos. Like, imagine doing like, I don't know, the Madonna biopic, and you make it a series of music videos, which actually might be fire. Nobody steal my idea. That's actually kind of a good idea. Like, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, either way, the thing about Dreamgirls, it does have a compelling story. So let's walk through the story a bit. So basically the movie opens up with like this Detroit talent show happening like in the late 1950s or early 1960s, somewhere around that time. And so there are these local groups performing on stage. Meanwhile, the character who is played by, I'm looking it up, Danny Glover, his name is Marty Madison. He's the manager for this like, act who is inspired by like James Brown and Jackie Wilson and Marvin Gaye, played by Eddie Murphy. His name is Jimmy Earl. Jimmy Earl is like harassing his backup singers, and Marty is trying to like chase down these two backup singers who don't want to be with Jimmy Earl anymore. The two girls leave, and they don't want to be, sexually harassed. And then we see Dina pop up, who is played by Beyonce Knowles, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad. I hope I'm not too late. My mama wouldn't let me out of the house. She tells me, demons march the streets, at night," or something like that, right? Trying to, evoke that she comes from like this Christian home. The show is almost over. Dina is like, trying to beg the manager or the promoter of the show to like let her on. But the guy's like, you can't get on yet. And then we see, Curtis Taylor, who is a Cadillac car salesman, who is also trying to finagle his way into the music business, right? And so he, talked to Marty and said, I can try to get you singers. He also talks to the performance manager, who is played by Jaleel White, Urkel, by the way, which I'm pretty sure Urkel was very happy to be even just talking to Beyonce, breathing the same air, right? But, Curtis Taylor is able to get Dina and her two other friends, Effie and Laurel, who are part of this girl group called The Dreams, to get on stage and perform. They end up losing the contest that night, but Curtis Taylor is able to come to the girls and say, "Hey, I got you a new gig. You're going to sing backup for Jimmy Earl for like $400 a week, and you're going to go on tour." Effie, at first, doesn't want to sing backup, but she eventually is persuaded by her other friends. What did you think about like the opening scene?
I think it's a good opening scene to set the mood of the time, because not just you only like see the Dreams performance, but you see like other people performing at the same time, and you just get like the vibe of the time. And plus, like, it's a story that like, that starts with a grind. These girls are, participating in shows, and they're grinding, and they want to be somebody, and they know that they have talent. Plus, I think also, like, when we're introduced to Curtis's character, we see, like, he wants to be successful. He's a grinder as well, but at the same time, like, he's not, his ways are not as pure as, like, Effie, Dina, and Laurel. Mm-hmm. And he, like, I think pays the show guy, like behind the curtains, and he says like, don't let the girls win because I need them to be desperate, like for this job, you know? So we know like he's trying to do something, but his ways are not that like okay.
I think one of the genius things about this film is that they hint at and talk about some of the nasty things about the early music business, like the sexual assault, right? Like Jimmy Earl harassing the girls. Dina's about to go on stage and some guy just grabs her butt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once again, that guy was probably very happy to be palming Beyonce's ass right there. You know what I mean? So he's like, is that what's in the script? I'll take it. You know what I mean? I'll do it. No money. I get to brag at the barbershop for life.
Wow.
But yeah, they hint at that also, like Curtis Taylor like paying the guy to make the girls lose, like, because the music business, like I always say, is like full of gangsters. There's no business dirtier than the music business other than maybe like pornography, right? Like it's a slimy, grimy business riddled with gangsters, which is what Curtis is too, and many of the other characters. But the movie doesn't make you, it doesn't get too dark on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's hints of it, but it doesn't go that dark.
It doesn't make you like hate Curtis's character, I would say, at least like in the beginning, because you sort of understand that everyone does this type of thing. Like when we see Jimmy Early and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
As the movie progresses and Curtis does become the villain, in my mind, it still wasn't a hate for him. Right, I'm actually like sympathetic to Curtis because like being a black man at that time in America, reaching those levels of financial success, right? Like he just did whatever it could to like, you know, reach a new plateau, a place that no black man has gone before. So I sympathize with Curtis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think of Jimmy Early?
Jimmy Early, when we're introduced to Eddie Murphy, number one, it's always good to see Eddie Murphy, especially in a good role in a good movie. Because Eddie Murphy's made quite a lot of duds. I'm going to be frank with you. But Eddie Murphy really is a great actor, talented performer, decent singer. And so I was glad to see Eddie Murphy as Jimmy Early, right? And also while I was watching it, he reminded me so much of like James Brown, right?
Yeah.
Just oozing James
Little
Brown
Richard.
energy. Yeah, Little Richard, James Brown energy, just that eccentric 1950s, you know, soul singer that was wild. Like, yeah.
I mean, he just really can handle those energetic roles. And he did that. Like, he showed that. I think, like, his performance as a, you know, singer and a performer was just, like, really, really there. And it didn't have, like, any doubt. Because, you know, other than this, I don't know if Eddie Murphy has been in other musicals, but I don't think, other than this movie, I've seen him, like, sing.
I mean, Eddie Murphy is famous for that song in the 80s, his one hit, "My girl likes to party all the time, party all the time, party all the..." You don't know that song?
No.
He also did a song with Michael Jackson, too. Like, Eddie Murphy was that guy. Like, you know, Eddie Murphy, like, you know, he is, like, a very important figure in comedy because, like, he was the first comedian rock star. You know, like how what's his name?
Will Smith?
Not Will Smith. Will Smith is not a comedian. What's his name? The short guy?
Kevin Hart?
Yeah. You know how Kevin Hart was like in every movie, you know, box office star. You know what I mean? Everybody around the world knows his name. Eddie Murphy was the first guy that did that. You know what I mean? In the 80s with Raw and Delirious. And then also being on Saturday Night Live. And then his hit movies like Beverly Hills Cop, Trading Places and stuff like that. Eddie Murphy was like a sex symbol, rock star, comedian. Something we had never seen before. And he laid the blueprint for Chris Rock and Kevin Hart and all the other comedians who took it to that next level, you know? So there's a lot of love for him.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he showed it up definitely also in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. But basically, you know, the girls end up, you know, learning the songs from Jimmy Earl. They're also accompanied along the way with their partner, Cece, who is Effie's younger brother. And he's like the writer for all of their songs. And, you know, while they're, you know, preparing to go on tour with Jimmy Earl and stuff like that, you know, Curtis is telling them, you know, type of stuff like they are not gonna, you know, be able to, you know, do the things that they used to do before. Like, he's going to be more in control of their image and stuff like that. Any comments on any of those scenes?
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of, I guess, like a representation that, you know, how people say, artists, before they reach to a certain level of fame, they have to play it by the rules of the producer or whoever is sponsoring them, basically. And they have to do like a certain type of music, and a lot of people did that and are still doing it. Like, that's still the rule for today, that you cannot just like go out and make your own eccentric music. You have to first do pop or something that appeals to the general public to just create wealth for yourself. Yeah. And it like still at that time it shows that.
Yeah, like you know, the music business and, you know, making music is the business of trying to find some sort of appeal about yourself. And like Jimmy Earl found that, but the reason the Dreams weren't successful is because they didn't know that. Like, there's that scene at the beginning where they're like in the mirror and say, hey, let's flip our wigs around. And nobody says, shut up, Dina. Like, they just did it because they're trying to find a way to like stick out. But also at the beginning of the film, when they're on tour, Jimmy Earl is up to his old tricks and he's like trying to get at the girl played by Anika Laurel, who's also one of the Dreams. So he's like, you know, inviting her to the backseat, kissing on her, and you know, Laurel says like, Jimmy Earl, aren't you married? And he says, everybody knows Jimmy Earl's married. So she's like, get your married hands off of me. You know what I mean? And Jimmy Earl's like, well, I guess it'll take 2 weeks then to break it down. And Jimmy Earl keeps trying to like creep to the front of the bus to like, you know, holler at the girls, but there's like this big woman manager who's like, puts her foot down and stops her. What did you think about Jimmy Earl, you know, trying to sleep with the Dreams?
Yeah, even that mannerism is like reminding me of the James Brown movie, because James Brown was trying to like get girls as well when he was like famous. And yeah, I mean, at that time it was very normal to be married and then, you know, cheat on your wife, especially if you're famous. You know, there's no way really that could be monitored. But yeah, I think Laurel was also just trying to like keep her dignity, but she was also like very much a fan of Jimmy Earl.
Yeah, I mean,
she was just swooning around him.
Yeah, I mean, because he was a rock star at that time, right? He was probably famous to all of them. They probably grew up listening to his songs and stuff, and like, damn, we're on tour with him. So yeah, Laurel though, I think was. Yeah, no, that's still wild business. I always say, you and me always disagree about this, but I think if a woman sleeps with a married man or flirts with him or something like that, she's more at fault than the man, I would say. You and I disagree, but if she knows Jimmy Earl is married, trying to even entertain him is wild.
Well, why is Jimmy Earl doing it in the first place if he's married then?
He's a coked up rock star.
So, she's an upcoming superstar then. Like, it doesn't matter. But I think Laurel, like, held up as much as she can. Yeah. Because, yeah, that sort of, like, person has a different power over you, especially at that time. Yeah.
So as Jimmy Earl is like touring with the Dreams and stuff like that, they're successful, right? And Marty keeps them booked on shows. But, you know, it's starting to get harder for Jimmy Earl because, like, you know, his sound is starting to get outdated. There are newer acts out there. So Effie's brother, Cece, starts, you know, saying, hey, let me write songs. Let me give you a new voice, a new sound. And like Jimmy Earl doesn't want to hear it because he's like, I was the first one to do the splits. I was the first one to do a backflip on stage, pass out, all that stuff, right? Like, and he doesn't feel like he could be taught anything new. But Cece like starts playing songs for him and he starts liking it and he finds out, hey, that's a hit. You know what I mean? What did you think about that, if anything?
Yeah, I like Cece's character because he's that guy like that doesn't have a lot of ego, you know? I think he does have like just a lot of talent in the movie. And he's just trying to show it. He's not trying to pursue any sort of fame. He just want like his music to be out there, no matter like who it's sung by. Yeah. But yeah, I like his character, and that was a cool scene that like, you know, we see Jimmy Earl just stopping and then actually listening to the music. Yeah. Got me a Cadillac. I mean, come on, that's a hit. Yeah. You can't deny it. What I liked about that part is like it shows like the music business is not just about what you can make. It's a team effort, right? Like any hit song is not just one guy or one girl writing down some stuff and it pops. Very rarely if that does happen, right? Like a hit song is made with talented writers, musicians, backup singers, you know what I mean? Even in hip hop as well. So, you know, Cadillac comes out
And you know, the song is like bubbling on like black radio, and they're pushing it out there, but it's the 1950s, so the white folks just straight up take it. They just jack the song, and so got me a Cadillac, Cadillac becomes
Ooh, I got me a Cadillac, Cadillac car.
We get the blue-eyed soul version of Cadillac. And once again, I like how this film highlights so many things about, you know, the black experience in America, because stealing our music was like the basis of like rock and roll. Like nowadays, people imagine rock and roll was just invented by like a few, you know, hippie white boys or the Beatles or something like that. But it has black roots, right? Ike Turner, Howlin' Wolf, Little Richard, et cetera, right? And so that was so common at that time. It's crazy.
Yeah, it does a really good job by telling like the story of black radio and white radio, and how that was like sort of segregated, and black musicians, producers had to like first conquer the black radios, and then on top of it they have to like do the switch over and conquer like the white radios as well, and that's how they could have become like a national like hit or superstar, because like when your song was on the black radio, of course it means something, but it doesn't really get you that much money to be able to like, you know, continue grinding and putting out stuff. So I think that was like a really good, you know, under theme of the movie. Yeah,
I mean, looking at the success of certain artists in music, at least in America, gives you that's all you really need to know to prove that white supremacy is real. Akdi, I'm going to ask you, because we found this out a few days ago. Who was the first rapper to have a #1 song in the country? Or do you remember what the song
Eminem?
was? No, not Eminem.
I don't remember.
Okay, it was Vanilla Ice.
Oh,
Eminem came out like 20 years later. But anyway, Vanilla Ice's song, Ice Ice Baby, is the was the first #1 rap song. And then after that, do you know who it was?
No, but it was a black person. No,
it was Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg used to be a rapper. So Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch was the second song. So hip-hop had already had so many great rappers. Run DMC, Rakim, KRS-One, Big Daddy Kane. All by the time Vanilla Ice came out and said, Ice, Ice, Baby. And Mark Wahlberg was dancing around with his shirt off. You get what I'm saying? So, so many... And you were talking about like the segregation in radio. Like even when I was growing up, we knew that there was a white radio station and a black radio station. There was a radio station that played all white artists, and most of the time it was like pop and rock and roll and stuff like that. And then there was a black radio station that was playing like R&B, soul music, gospel music, hip hop, et cetera, et cetera. So it's still real. Like everything else in America, it's like segregated by default.
And also, I guess like the most depressing part about the situation in the movie is that they really couldn't do anything about it. Because the white artists or the white producers had money, so they would have to like get more money in order for it to like work for them.
Well, speaking of money, so what Curtis Taylor does when he finds out the white folks stole Cadillac, he says, we're going to take this underground and we're going to do this, you know, our way. So he actually like sells his Cadillac dealership, sells out all the cars, everything like that, goes to like betting places where like the mafia is, gambles, wins money, goes to like underground boxing matches, bets, wins money, uses those funds to then pay radio stations to play Jimmy Earl's Cadillac, and then it becomes like the #1 song in the country and stuff like that. He also opens up his own record label called Rainbow Records, and that's how he's gonna try to like continue to promote the artists that he has under him, the Dreams and Jimmy Earl. Any comments on that scene? Because that was also a cool scene with that song.
Step into the bad side.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah. I really wish that Jamie Foxx had like more songs in this movie, because I just feel like he has an incredible like range and talent when it comes to music. But even though like that wasn't his solo song or anything, it was still a very good song, and it just like brought energy to the movie then. And also it was different. Plus, you know, the whole like thing of doing things underground, you sympathize with Curtis because that's the only way he can do it. And he does it and he becomes successful. So I feel like also at the same time you admire him that he has, you know, the guts to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, like, you know, the music industry, like I said, was very dirty. And payola is something that we're talking about like right now in modern, you know, hip hop, because Drake is suing his record label saying that his label promoted the song Not Like Us through means like payola. Basically, you know, paying companies like Spotify and YouTube to like promote this song and push this song that was hurting his reputation. So like the payola thing goes back a long, long time in the music business. Technically, it's been illegal for a long time, but, you know, in this dirty game, people are still going to find ways to like pay to play. And so that was cool to see in this film. And yeah, Jamie Foxx should have gotten more songs, but he was probably tired because 2 years before this film came out, he did Ray, and he was singing throughout that joint.
Yeah,
so
Ray was so good too.
He was like, it's $100,000 for me to even sing one song. Do you really want me to play? Because the price, yesterday's price ain't the same price. You know?
Wow. I mean, he's just like such a talented musician, I think, and a singer. So yeah, that's why I just desperately wanted to hear his voice, because I truly loved the tone of his voice. Yeah.
So Curtis ends up, you know, fooling around with Effie, right? Like him and Effie start to become an item. They, you know, they're kissing each other, and like Curtis is like saying he's gonna take care of her and stuff like that. What did you think about that part of the film when, you know, Effie, played by Jennifer Hudson, and Curtis, played by Jamie Foxx, started to get together?
Yeah, the thing about Effie is like she's a hard to control character. She knows she's talented, and she is. Then like it's hard to stop her from like wanting to be the lead, wanting to be, you know, wanting to show her talent. So what I felt like was that Curtis was trying to control Effie by like, you know, being a thing with her, and then like controlling her romantically, you know. I love you so much, like, can you just please wait a little bit more for me? Because I feel like if Curtis was only Effie's like boss, I don't think he would have the same effect. So I felt like throughout the movie he was just using her to control her in that romantic sense.
I don't think it was, well, now that you put it that way, I see that. I didn't think that when I watched it. So I agree with you, actually. It's a very good way of putting that. Because, like, yeah, she didn't want to sing backup when she got the job with Jimmy Earl. The entire time she was kind of like, you know, complaining about Jimmy Earl trying to, like, sleep with them. You know what I mean? And I think, like you said, Curtis saw that she was the most talented. If I'm dating her, Jimmy might not touch her. And on top of that, I can keep, like, her temper under control, too.
Yeah, because from the beginning, we see, like, they show Curtis's looks at Dina, right? When she's getting dressed in the dressing room.
He first saw Dina, and he was obviously impressed.
Yeah. So, and plus, on top of it, Effie is, like, a bit more flirtatious than Dina, because Dina is still, like, the good girl. And she doesn't really say anything, but Effie is like flirting with Curtis. So, you know, it's like two birds with one stone. Like, you have, you know, a girlfriend, plus you get to like control everything that's going on with the group. Yeah, very good point. That's a very good point of bringing that up. But, you know, Curtis Taylor, he's now sort of like running the show and helping promote Jimmy's business more than Jimmy's old manager, Marty, played by Danny Glover, right? So Marty gets really upset at Curtis, and Curtis is like, you know, whatever you're planning with Jimmy, you know, that Chitlin circuit, taking him to those small hole-in-the-wall clubs, he's bigger than that now, and I got something for him. He's going to perform at this fancy hotel in Miami. And Marty is shocked because he's like, them crackers won't let Jimmy up in there. They never let a black boy even park the cars there. And Jimmy overhears this and says, don't nobody control me, but I just kind of want what's best for me. And so Marty, his old manager, says, you know what, I'm through with this. I can't deal with these two people who are now going in a direction that I don't agree with. What did you think about any of those scenes, if anything? Yeah, I guess it's sad to see, like, you know, similar people fight over, like, fame and money. But I really felt like Marty, I feel like he truly cared about Jimmy early, but you know, like Curtis's character, like his just personality is someone who is constantly trying to reach more stuff, like whether that's fame, wealth, like whatever it is. So I feel like he also saw Jimmy Early as a, you know, as a vehicle. Yeah, as a vehicle, as a product, basically, to get something out of it.
I mean, Curtis is a ruthless capitalist. You know what I mean? He's a ruthless capitalist that you want to root for because he comes from, you know, bad circumstances, right? I'm pretty sure opening up that car dealership was hard for him as a black man. Doesn't matter if it's in Detroit. You know what I mean? So, you know, this is a guy, this is basically a nigga with money and balls and just wants to take it to the next level. He's Diddy. He's essentially Diddy, right? Curtis Taylor is Diddy.
He's Jay-Z.
He's Diddy. He's Jay-Z. He's sleeping with his subordinates. He wants all the money he can get. He's willing to go into rooms full of vultures. You know what I mean? He's willing to do whatever, you know, and he has that young blood. Marty didn't have that. So Marty had to go. And Jimmy wanted to rise up too. You know what I mean? Because he's a black artist who didn't get the shine he deserved, even though he's hella talented.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like at the same time, it's not like Marty or Effie or, you know, Cece. It's not like they come from wealthy families. Everyone sort of came from like that same background.
Yeah, everybody.
But Curtis just had like that insane, you know,
drive.
Patience and drive to like accomplish it.
Yeah, if Curtis were a real person, he would definitely be one of those like grind set alpha male, sigma male YouTubers talking about turn $3,000 into $6,000 tomorrow. Yeah, sleep is for the weak. I grind when I wake up. I grind when I go to sleep.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that.
He is that type of guy. So, yeah, man. So Curtis takes Jimmy Early and the Dreamettes down to Miami, and they go into this fancy club. It's all full of white people. There's a comedian who's Jewish who's making like racist jokes about, you know, the black people who are in there, which is Jimmy and the Dreamettes. And, you know, they just have to sit there and take it. Jimmy goes on stage and performs like this sexual R&B song where he's like gyrating his hips in front of all these like very staid and demure white folks. He does it. It gets so hot under the collar in there. Like one of these old white people ends up like walking out with her husband. You know what I mean? They're so disturbed, and so the audience is just not feeling Jimmy Early's production. But Curtis notices that the white guys there are like looking at Dina. And also looking at Laurel and maybe glancing at Effie or whatever. So the Curtis goes backstage and tells them, you know what? We're not going to be doing the Jimmy show. The Dreamettes are going to get their own, you know, show at this fancy hotel. And the girls are just so excited. What'd you think about any of those scenes?
Yeah, the girls are excited, but who they choose to be the lead. Because Effie has been waiting for such a long time to be the lead and to be the star, but instead, like, they choose Dina to be the lead of the Dreamettes, or the Dreams. Which I think, like, in essence, you know, Jimmy Early was too black for the audience. If he was too black for the audience, then, you know, they thought he would be too black for the general audience as well. And we can never really do what we want to achieve with Jimmy in white Hollywood. So, you know, and, you know, when it was time to change, in Curtis's head, like we said, he's a ruthless capitalist. He also thought Effie is probably too fat, too black as well, because she also sings with a lot of soul like Jimmy. And so, you know, the only logical choice for him was to put Dina, you know, in front of the whole marketing campaign. Yeah. Basically. And I think that says a lot still about today. But I think, like, it's changing slowly. Like, we have more, you know, we have more bigger girls, like, doing the leads. We have, like, girls who are not the traditionally beautiful type of girls. Or we have darker skin tones, actors and actresses, like, taking the lead roles and stuff like that. But it's still something that's developing. It's not there yet, I think. So, you know, to see that issue still happening today, it interesting to experience that.
Right. Now, one of my complaints about this film, I feel like there was, and this might sound crazy talking about a musical, there was too much music, to be frank. Because there's this scene when, Effie finds out she's not going to sing lead, and she says, "What about me?" And then there's that song that she sings with her brother Cece on stage and stuff like that. I didn't like that song. I felt like it was unnecessary. I felt like that scene would have been more powerful had it just been acted out. You know what I mean? That's just my one critique. Do you disagree?
I just think that song sort of emphasizes the pressure Effie had to keep on going. Because it's like your family is expecting something from you, so you have to do it, type of thing. So that's what it emphasized. Is it my favorite song? No. Could I do without it? Yeah, maybe. No. But it didn't bother me when I was watching it.
I got you. I just felt like that one dragged on a bit. Like the scene was more impactful if it just had that emotion of that discovery for Effie acted out rather than sung. But moving forward in the story, basically, the girls are performing as the Dreams at this hotel. They're successful. The crowd is packed. Dina is singing lead. And, they're also recording new songs. And Curtis has them singing songs like, "You getting so heavy, heavy, heavy. You getting fat.
Heavy, heavy. You getting heavy on me." Yeah.
All right, yeah. It's like she's getting fat and stuff like that. And so, like, Effie gets really upset about this, and she's, like, storming out. And also at the same time, there's, like, this big riot in Detroit, possibly over, like, the killing of, like, an unarmed black teenager, which is what always makes Americans want to burn down, like, a restaurant or something. So there was that scene when Effie walks out on Curtis, and then she sees the fire outside, and then she says, "Curtis, I'm scared." And then, like, Jamie Foxx comes outside and, like, hugs her big back. What did you think of that? What did you think of that scene?
I mean, I like that they showed the cultural moments because, like, before they also showed, I Have a Dream speech and how that was, like, put on a record and published as well. And then after that, they show, like, probably, like, some famous riots that happened in Detroit. And there, like, we see Effie obviously just, like, fearing about what is going on in her, society. And those times make you appreciate what you have, because then she just looks back and she says, like, "Oh, I'm complaining, but I have, like, a great place to live. I make money. I get to, like, do what I like most of the time. Why am I complaining when people are dying outside?" Basically.
Yeah. I think, that inclusion of, like, the social situation of the 1960s, once again, doesn't make this film feel too, like, cheesy or glossy. It still is rooted in some reality. And that's good, coming from the minds of, like, white folks who made this film, right? Because even though it's, like, all black cast, it's still written by white folks too, and white folks tend to have the tendency to, like, gloss over that history. Like, hey, let's just talk about the Dreamgirls. Yeah. You know what I mean? But after that, Effie is not really, like, coming to rehearsals as much, not coming to the studio. She doesn't want to be involved in the Dreams and stuff like that. And so one day when they're doing rehearsals at the hotel, Effie comes and says, "Sorry, I'm late. I'm going to go get dressed." Cece is saying, like, "I think you need to go back to your hotel room. Curtis will talk to you soon." And then Effie says, "You know what? I'm going to go get dressed." And then her replacement comes out. There's another girl who is a part of the Dreams now to replace her. And all the people, Effie has, like, a tantrum. So they start singing, arguing. There's this big singing argument where everybody gangs up on Effie, saying, like, her attitude has been the reason the Dreams haven't succeeded. Her stubbornness, her obstinance is why they're not getting ahead. And everybody sort of just leaves her. And then it's only, Effie left on stage with Curtis. And then she sings this very, very powerful song for Curtis. The song was so powerful. Like, I literally stopped the movie and I had to Google Jennifer Hudson Oscar, because I had to double check, like, if she didn't win an Oscar for that performance of that song, and if you could find the song's name, that would be great. I was gonna be like, that, the Oscars mean nothing, because that was a knockout performance. Yeah. But what did you think of that?
Yeah, the song is "And I Am Telling You" by Jennifer Hudson.
No, it's not by Jennifer Hudson. But go ahead, continue.
Okay, well, that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie because, yeah, you have basically all of the cast there and they're all attacking Effie, and you can see how frustrating that is for her. And yeah, it's just like the song itself is just insane because it just builds on gradually, and at the end you have like this big explosion of emotions plus like all the high notes that Jennifer Hudson is hitting at that moment. And yeah, I listen to that song like outside of the movie as well, and every time I listen to it I feel like running and screaming, and it's just such a great song.
Right. The song was originally sung by Jennifer Holliday, and that song won awards as well. She won a Grammy Award for Best R&B Performance for that song in 1983. And it's amazing that, Jennifer Hudson could, like, do it again, like, bring out that much emotion for it years later. It is such a powerful scene. And it's a song I've heard before, but, like, that performance of it, hands down, is the best.
Yeah. I mean, it's a song that became popular. Yeah, but it's just like 10 out of 10 performance from her.
Knockout. Absolute knockout. What happens next in the story?
So next in the story, we go into the future, and Beyonce's character Dina is basically like sitting in this movie theater in her house. So we know like now they have become rich, and she's watching like this documentary about her life basically and how she was with the Dreams, and then after that she started her solo career. She did a lot of stuff, campaigns, plus like they show that her and Curtis got married, and yeah, she's basically happy when she sees that, but then she sees that they're advertising her for playing Cleopatra in a movie, and she gets upset. She goes out and have like this fight sort of argument with Curtis, and Curtis is constantly like to her like, you're such a big talent, I love you, I'll make everything for you, you don't have to worry about anything, you're every man's dream, that sort of thing. And Dina, like, when she hears those things, she's just like softens and accepts everything that Curtis is like trying to make him do. Mm-hmm. What did you think of like that future dynamic?
I thought, once again, this is Beyonce parodying Beyonce, and this is so good. Like, how could it not be more on the nose? Like, this is so crazy. It's like, this will be like me playing a black guy in a movie who goes to Albania and get called nigger. Like, like, oh yeah, I can do that role easily. It's so on the nose. But, you know what? I really actually find this part very, very interesting because Curtis, like we said earlier, is this ruthless capitalist guy, and he's using Dina in a way to sort of like advance, making more money, but also to advance a positive message. Like, I want to put a black face on Cleopatra. This movie will inspire like young black girls out there for generations to come. They could do anything. And so a part of me is like wishing Dina was on board with the plan. But another part is like Curtis don't like push her. Like, I think Curtis is a complex character in that way.
Do you think Curtis really loves Dina?
I think he loves what Dina has done for him. And I think he does find her beautiful and attractive. He found her more beautiful than Effie, right? But he also probably knows that she has a gift, and he wishes that he could just use her like a machine a little bit, right? But I think he does love her in the sense like he's happy with having Dina, right? Like, because he's not cheating. Curtis isn't. It's not like years later they jump ahead and Curtis like has like a girlfriend on the side or something like that. Like, he's with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think at the same time, like in certain parts, it feels like Dina is like an arm candy for him as well. Like, he likes her idea of like how she looks and what she represents, but it doesn't feel like there's that much of a deeper connection between them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think their relationship was built on, just that success. Plus, she's like this wide-eyed, sweet girl. we get the impression that Dina came from like this Christian conservative household. So, maybe Curtis is the only man she's ever been with. And she was taught all her life, obey your man, listen, because this is still like the 70s, 60s, whatever, right? So she probably has that mindset, like, now I'm somebody's wife, I have to listen,
She's a settler.
She's a settler, yes. Yeah, she's a Little House on the Prairie type of girl, you know what I mean? And she'll just be okay with settling for the man that she said yes to.
Yeah.
She's like, I had one time to say yes, and I did, so now I have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But, now with all this success, Curtis has a lot of people around him now. Like, he's running, like, this multi-million-dollar company built on the back of Dina and the Dreams and all this stuff. Jimmy Earl is, still trying to stay relevant going into the new decade, right? So he's, like, recording more, like, socially conscious songs and stuff like that. But Curtis doesn't like it, right? And, when he plays this song for Curtis... Jimmy Earl starts doing more drugs. You know what I mean? And we see that Jimmy Earl is like going down this very wrong path. He's also tied into Laurel. Like, him and Laurel are still, messing around. But they're not married, of course. Jimmy Earl didn't leave his actual wife. And nobody can actually stop Jimmy Earl from using drugs. What did you think about those scenes?
Yeah. Just want to add, at the same time, they show Effie in like this job searching place. And she has like this little girl with her. She's her daughter, and we just see her sort of struggling. And like the lady at the office says like, "So did you apply to any jobs today?" And she says like, "Lady, the only thing I know how to do is sing. So if there's no singer jobs, then no, I didn't apply to any jobs." And yeah, we see her just like living a normal life, but also, I would say, like, financially struggling a little bit. And then she basically, like, meets Marty again. And, they try to, like, find her a place to get a job where she can sing. But, yeah, like, how things evolved, it wasn't unexpected. Like, I think people can sense that Curtis would sort of become, like, a monster. And Jimmy Earl... very classic, like, sort of ending for a big star. Like, they start doing drugs and stuff like that. And, I just felt bad for Cece also, because he was writing, like, those socially conscious songs. And it's like all of their dreams get crushed because Curtis is still trying to, like, make Jimmy Earl number one. But he knows that he can't do it, so he's just abandoning him,
now that you said it, all of their dreams are getting crushed. Like, that's like the big metaphor for this movie. They're called the Dreamgirls, but everybody here has a dream. Curtis has a dream of getting rich. All the other singers have a dream of getting into the industry. Jimmy Earl has the dream of being forever the guy, number one in the industry. But they're all dreams, and dreams can easily turn into nightmares, which is what happens to all of them briefly throughout the film, right? And I think that's a, very easily found metaphor, but it's like also real, like if you've ever thought about being in the music industry, like it's a dream and a nightmare simultaneously.
Yeah, and plus, like, not everyone's dreams can come true, and even if they come true, they cannot continue forever.
Yeah,
so
you have to wake up.
Yeah, at some point it's gonna end. And I feel like that was what Jimmy was experiencing.
Yeah.
And he just, like, was, he had this, like, emptiness that he couldn't fill.
Right. Definitely was giving Marvin Gaye with the tweed hat and the leather jacket. You know what I mean? Jimmy Earl was definitely, like, on another level, right? But he's supposed to represent so many characters. Marvin Gaye, James Brown, et cetera, right? But the one thing that I really didn't like is when we saw Effie in the future and she had her daughter, Magic, but she told Magic, "You don't got no daddy." You know what I mean? And, like, we know that's Curtis's baby. Yeah. You know what I mean? It has to be Curtis's baby. Or somebody else that was around them at the time. But, yeah, I was like, how obstinate, how, like, hard-headed can you be that you tell your daughter, like, something like that? You know what I mean? That's what made me not like Effie, briefly. Like, low-key, Effie is kind of unlikable. She's kind of, to me, the most unlikable. Not totally unlikable, but she's, like, up there for me.
She is very just like, yeah, hard-headed, just like super stubborn. But at the same time, like we see she does have, you know, a lot to give. And I think what hurt her the most was that she thought, you know, certain people were her family. They loved her. They cared about her. They wanted her to succeed. But then they did everything opposite.
Yeah. She was kind of betrayed, but she kind of brought that betrayal onto herself, you know, but she was also in a bad situation. Like, how much can you deal with, you know, singing songs about how you're getting fat and have to eat that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In front of people, right? I just, you know, wish that they made her, you know, less unlikable at certain moments, you know what I mean? Like, instead of just telling your daughter, you ain't got no daddy, just say, man, he's out for cigarettes. He'll be back one day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it feels like, you know, it's showing that Effie just sort of erased her whole past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she doesn't want to be associated with Curtis, with Dina, with Laurel, even with Cece, like her own brother.
Yeah. But there's, you know, this one scene when, like, Effie gets a job or audition at like this old cafe, like the Detroit Club or something like that, right? Marty is now like her new manager, trying to like help her out. Plus he's been the one like giving her money and making sure she's okay. And Marty has to pull Effie to the side and say, listen, just because you're talented, you got to prove it just like everybody else out here. Just because you're really good doesn't mean everything's going to be really easy. Which I thought was like one of the best lessons from this film. Like, there are a bunch of talented people out there that feel like they're too good to work or don't want to work, and they squander their talent. Like, for me, I had a friend, his name was Will. Every time Will rapped, everybody said, like, I've never seen this before, everybody said, he's dope. You know what I mean? And when you play some shit and people say you're it and you don't use it, that's just so fucking annoying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so... yeah, she was it. She had it, but she didn't use it in the right way. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think we have a lot of examples. I have it also in my life as well, like the people I know, because I feel like we saw a lot of people who didn't have that much of a talent, but they just worked hard so much that they become talented at the end. Or even not talented, but they were just like appreciated because of their hard work, you know? And then, like you said, there are those people who got just a lot of talent, undeniable talent, but they believe that they don't have to put in the work because the doors will just open for them. Mm-hmm. And it does. And when that doesn't happen, I feel like it's such a big kick to your ego that they just like give up everything and they doubt themselves, and that's when you get into like that downward spiral. Yeah,
which you shouldn't get in. And if you have a talent, use it. So if you're a dope rapper, you better start rapping, motherfucker. Like if you're a dope singer, you better sing, bitch.
Do it with like intention. Yeah. And put the work in, because you can't really have anything without working hard in this life. That's very cliche, but it's like so true.
Having natural musical talent is like having naturally big titties and a big ass. Like, you better use that shit. If you end up with Simon Hill Keeps It Trill as your husband, and you got a big titty.
Okay, this just became like very sexist, very quick. I don't know
I'm
how
sorry.
That happened.
We're talking about the Dreamgirls. I'm Curtis right now. Curtis. I'm Jimmy Earl. Okay. I'm just saying. I was trying to give you a compliment side hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got it. But it's like, those are not something that I should be using in order to get stuff.
Right, I'm just saying.
That's where the sexism comes in.
I'm sorry. Thank you for educating me. Thank you for the kiss. But you know I can only go 30 minutes without talking about TNA.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Anyway, where are we in the story? Pick up.
So basically we have that big sort of like scene with Jimmy Earl and Laurel. And Curtis like gets this show for Jimmy Earl, and they're in the backstage, and basically Laurel is like just yapping about saying like, you know, when are we gonna get married? It's been like 8 years since we've been fooling around, which she has a point, but at the same time it's like, girl, like, why'd you wait so long? And Jimmy Early is like doing drugs and stuff, and he says like, girl, like I have a show now, I can't talk. And he goes outside, and we see that his wife is in the audience, and he's basically like singing this sad love song to Laurel on one hand, who's backstage, and also to his wife, who's in the audience. And it's like such a weird thing, and both Laurel and his wife like notice that there's somebody else there. And then, like, in the middle of the performance, he stops singing the song, and he says, like, man, I just, like, hate singing sad love songs. I'm gonna do me. And he starts, like, funking out. And he goes crazy. Like, you know, he's screaming, he's yelling, he's singing his heart out. But also at the end, like, he drops his pants and stuff. And basically the whole crowd is, like, a bit weirded out by this whole situation. And Curtis is watching, and he's like furious.
Yeah, I really like that scene because that scene hints at the creation of hip hop. Because, like, you know, Jimmy Earl is like rapping. He's like, Jimmy Earl got a car, Jimmy Earl got girls, Jimmy Earl gonna tour all around the world. Like, he's like rapping and shit like that. And that hints at like how James Brown and like so many other people can be seen as like proto rappers. Like, they were the beginning of the genre. And then like him by dropping his pants, I thought right there, you know, that is an allusion to like sagging your pants. You know what I mean? So like the OGs can say, oh, you think you bad because you sagging your pants? Man, I was there in 1967 when Jimmy Earl dropped his pants in front of all them crackers. You know what I mean? So I thought I really liked that scene. And it was sad how Jimmy Earl got dropped from the label too. Like, Curtis is like, you know, Jimmy, we're through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, right after that, he gets off stage, and first, like, Laurel breaks up with him. And then after that, like, he gets fired from the label. Yeah. But yeah, I like that scene too, because I feel like it still showed that, yeah, maybe Jimmy Earl is now old and not as hip as he used to be, but he still got fire and talent in his heart. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like it was telling of that, but it was also sad to see like him being rejected by something he did for so many years.
But it's also sad that Jimmy Earl was fighting so hard to still be the hottest. Like, that's the saddest thing. Like, we were speaking about this, you know, I think in Anora or something like that. Like, the saddest thing is like when somebody comes back from something they were great at when they were young and tries to keep it when they're older, you know? Like, you should become a legacy act. You know, Mariah Carey will never have like the #1 song, #1 album that in the country, no. But she can tour for the rest of her life. Yeah. You have diehard fans. Same thing with Janet Jackson, Madonna. You don't need to be the hottest if you have a hot catalog, which I think Jimmy Earl had. But his character is supposed to represent that star that won't let that go instead of evolving, you know?
Yeah, and I think that says something because then it feels like the fame and the money and all the fans and every like sort of good thing you get out of that situation when you were the best filled a void. But now that you don't have it, it's like lacking to fill the void. Or maybe after some time, it's not enough.
I mean, fame is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, so it's like an addiction, but it's also like, it's an addiction that you can't maintain because it's taking a lot from you. Yeah,
fame is worse than narcotics, right? Because you always want that, and people celebrate you for that. Yeah. People don't celebrate you shooting heroin, but they'll celebrate you for being famous, which is intoxicating to the mind.
Yeah.
So, moving on in the story, essentially, like, you know, Cece falls out with Curtis, too, because Curtis is taking his soulful songs that he wrote and making them, like, disco and pop. And once again, I feel for Curtis here because he's trying to, like, keep up with the times and, like, sell records and stuff like that. But, you know, I also thought it was crazy, like, wait, you only had one talented writer? So, like, Cece is your golden goose, and if Cece goes, everything falls to the flow?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a bit like that.
That don't make sense, though. Like, you would have multiple talented people around you.
Yeah.
But either way, it's just a movie. I'm not tripping on that.
Yeah.
But, also Cece leaves. He tries to go back and meet up with Effie, but Effie sees her brother, and she, like, you know, runs away from him. She doesn't want to have anything to do with him. Also, at the same time, like, Jimmy Earl dies a few days after getting dropped from Rainbow Records. And Curtis doesn't want to take any responsibility for it because he's like, well, Jimmy Earl was on drugs. We tried to get him help, but, you know, sorry, man, that's his choice to overdose on narcotics. What did you think of those scenes?
Yeah, it was sad to like hear and see like Jimmy early dying, obviously, and I felt so bad for Laurel too because like she broke up with him and 2 days later like the guy basically overdosed. I feel like that's such a hard burden to carry, and plus like you've been his side chick for years. You're not even like maybe able to go to his funeral.
She wasn't ovulating once. Come on now. She should have trapped Jimmy Earl.
Wow. But yeah, like everything sort of was looking bad for Curtis.
Yeah.
At that moment because like you can have all the fame and everything, but if you don't have people around you that you actually like and love, then life sucks.
Yeah. I know the OGs, older people, would look at the Dreamgirls story and see like, oh man, this is Motown. This represents like when Berry Gordy was sleeping with Diana Ross and then that made Michael Jackson leave or some shit like that. I don't know. I don't know the whole Motown story. I'm not that old, but I can say Curtis's story reminds me of like Suge Knight, Death Row Records, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg, because that's my generation. So, like, Dr. Dre was the mastermind behind all the hits on Death Row Records, like Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style album, his album, The Chronic, and stuff like that. In the early 90s, they were like the biggest gangster rap group of all time and stuff like that. But then, when the violence started to happen around Death Row Records, like Tupac getting killed, all the Death Row people just like beating up anybody who came to the studio, Suge Knight like holding people over balconies and making them drink pee. Like Dr. Dre said, no, this is too much. And so when Dr. Dre left, Death Row Records started to like fumble and fall. Snoop Dogg left after that too because like he wanted to get some hot beats, and Dr. Dre, was making all the hot beats, and now Death Row don't have it. So, when I think about, Curtis's story, I just think Suge Knight, a little bit of Diddy, some of the icons we've seen in hip-hop who have had great falls after great rises.
Mm-hmm. I mean, do you think people are destined to sort of, like, fall down after great rises for many years? Do you think, like, because with the great rise comes money, drugs, fake people around you, and people who are trying to like get something out of you constantly. So I feel like at a certain point when everything just like comes together against you, then there ought to be like a fall.
Yeah, I don't know if it's inherent to the music industry that there will be that great fall. I think it's just so natural and so common, that it has happened. It leads me to believe maybe it is inherent, right? Because I can't think of one label, like in the hip-hop world, that didn't have a great rise and fall. Yeah. Cash Money Records, No Limit Records, Bad Boy, Death Row,
even
Def
artists,
Jam.
Like even Beyonce, the last thing that she dropped, like her country album, a lot of people like just...
Yeah, skip past it because Beyonce is slowly entering into legacy artist era.
Yeah.
Right? Like there will be a time when Beyonce drops an album and only like 50,000 people buy it or whatever, right? Yeah. Which is crazy to think about, but she had a great run. Now it's time for another generation of R&B artists to take over.
Because it's like, if you think about it, maybe some people would expect it to be the same in like the acting world, but it's not like that because even if you're older, you can get really great roles. Like Robert De Niro, he's...
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser. And also actors like put up a character and they play that character, but musicians basically just... put up themselves in their own lives in front of everyone. Even if they might have personas, it's not like a scripted thing.
Right. So, and even if you're really talented, the thing inherently about music is that every 5-10 years, it changes completely.
Yeah.
And the young kids, even if Mariah Carey is still the best technical singer, they want SZA. Because SZA represents them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, even if Mariah Carey sang the exact song SZA was doing, people would still say, yeah, but we want SZA because she's closer to us in how we can project ourselves onto her. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Is it natural to have the rise and fall? I mean, everything ends, right? We were talking about this last night. Everything comes to an end. So
it seems like a bit of a pattern in the music industry, especially.
Yeah, especially. Well, also because it's ran by a lot of people who are gangsters, criminals, and also people usually without a lot of education too. So, that's the thing about that business, right? It's a multi-billion-dollar business where most of the people in it don't even have high school diplomas.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. There's no other industry like that except porn. Porn and music are the exact same business.
Wow. But anyway, should I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, somehow Cece and Effie, with a heartfelt mini song, they make up and they sort of express that they're both trying to change and find their freedom. And then Cece makes a song for Effie, and he's like, "You're the only one who can actually sing the song." And yeah, she sings the song.
One night only. One night only.
That's all you have to spare.
Do.
One night only. Let's not pretend you care.
Wow, she just mushed my face with that.
Anyway, I love that song too. That's also one of the songs that I listen outside of watching this musical. But yeah, she sings the song and Marty is there, and they just basically make her a little record of the song and they put it out, and it's catching up. But Curtis somehow finds out about this, and then he takes the song and he adapts it to this disco vibe, and Dina is singing it on stage. Next thing we know, they buy the radio stations again, and they make her go number one. And Dina is not aware that this song actually belonged to Cece and Effie. And at the same time, Dina and Curtis are at this long dinner table on the opposite ends. And before in the movie, Dina has this meeting with some movie producers where she wants to act in a movie that she wants, not Cleopatra. And but the guys don't really take her seriously, and they're like, "We want to talk to your husband," so she keeps it secret. And Curtis puts that in her face and basically says "Oh, I know what you're doing behind me, but we're gonna do this Cleopatra whether you like it or not, because we've been working really hard on it." And Dina gets mad and she starts going through Curtis's stuff, and she finds Effie's album of One Night Only. So next thing you know, she's packing up all of her stuff and she's about to leave Curtis. And Curtis is like, "Where do you think you're going?" Dina got her mom. And she leaves Curtis at the end.
But also before then, Curtis was approached by Marty and his lawyers saying that, "Curtis, you stole our song, and on top of that, we have information about you using payola, illegal mob money to fund your record business. If you don't want any problems, stop stealing Effie's song and we won't take you to court and take you for everything you have." And actually the person who gave that information up, we can assume, was Dina, right? To them. So. And
we have the performance of "Listen" by Beyonce. I think that's one of the also most famous songs that came out from this musical. But what did you think about her shining performance moment, I guess?
So I like One Night Only. I like Effie's version, but I'm gonna be frank, I like the disco version of One Night Only a bit more. Sorry, that might be an unpopular opinion.
I mean, it's more catchy because it's upbeat.
Yeah.
But I like them both.
I like them both. But I could see playing the disco version more. Curtis taking One Night Only, is similar to how in the beginning of the movie, the white folks took the Cadillac song and made it their own, right? And I think about this, a lot of the times in the music industry, some bad practices that are done by people that come later in the industry, they learned from people before them. Diddy, before the whole sexual assault allegations and stuff, he was basically known in the industry for taking people's masters and publishing and basically owning the record, right? You made this song, but I get all the money for it, right? And people really criticized him for that and bad contracts with artists. But Diddy was tutored by this guy named Clive Davis. Clive Davis is this old white man who's been in the music industry for years. I think he signed Whitney Houston or maybe Elton John, major artists. Clive Davis did a lot of shady, dirty business practices, and Diddy got it from him. You know what I mean? So when I saw Curtis do that, I was like, damn, man, you should know better. But then again, you won't know better because you came into this game thinking that's what it was. You know what I mean? But also, though, I was thinking, like, you know, singing is different than, like, hip-hop, where, like, covers and stuff are not common. But in the singing R&B pop world, like, covers are more common. So I was thinking, like, when Curtis got approached by the lawyers, he could just say, hey, man, I'm doing a cover. I'm no different than, I don't know, when Bob Dylan covers, I don't know, Elton John or something like that. You know what I mean? But go ahead.
I think they have to, like, pay something even then, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was such a low blow because the guy who informed Curtis about Effie's record, he said, like, we could just, like, put Effie on the record and, like, you know, make money from Effie. And Curtis was like, no, we have to, like, make it Dina's song. So he could have easily just, like, hired Effie, basically. Yeah. But I think he also knew that she would never go for that as well.
Yeah. But the movie ends with, like, this last final show of the Dreams at this concert. After, of course, like, you know, Effie, Dina, and Laurel all, like, meet up and, like, reconcile and stuff like that. So the Dreams are having, like, their final concert. Curtis comes out to the red carpet event with, like, his new artist, Tania, or something like that. A new girl on his arm he's probably smashing. And, the Dreams perform on stage. And they also bring Effie out. And Effie sings lead for the first time. Curtis also looks down and sees, like, there's a girl there, the Magic, Effie's daughter. And he walks beside her and he realizes, damn, this bitch was hiding a baby from me. She just mad about a record. Bitch, you took 9 years of my life from my child. But anyway, he doesn't say that. But he should have. And, basically the movie ends with a big song of the Dreams, you know, reconciled on stage and, you know, round of applause and them, this being their last show. What did you think of the end?
Yeah, ending is cute. You know, I like the fact that all of the girls reconciled, obviously, because it showed, like, a bit more growth in Effie, too, because she's so stubborn and she's not quick to forgive. Obviously, it's, like, 9 years of not forgiving. But after she makes up with her brother, I think she realizes, like, how important family and friends are. And obviously, Dina leaving Curtis, I think, you know, has an effect in it as well. But yeah, it was a cute ending. Like, they end up with, like, I think one of the first songs that they sang also, like, we're your dream girls, boys, we'll make you happy.
Perfect.
But yeah. And then obviously, like, Curtis realizing his daughter is there. Actually, there's a hint to it in the movie before, because we see Effie in the hospital, but it's, like, shown for, like, maybe 5 seconds or something. And then when she comes to sing, like, that breakup song with Curtis, she says, like, I'm not feeling well. So I think there she's trying to explain that she's pregnant, but Curtis doesn't really even, like, give her a chance to explain herself. So, yeah, that's a bit that. So I think Effie has... It's like, it's not like Curtis reached out to Effie, you know. So she wasn't technically lying or keeping anything. She was just like, you know, if he's not asking, then I don't have to tell anything.
Okay, all right. Yeah, but when Magic asks, where's my daddy? You say, you ain't got no daddy.
Well, that's Magic. She doesn't owe anything to Magic.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you find excuses.
I'm joking.
But no, anyway, I like how at the ending, like, Curtis isn't, like, you know, totally destroyed. You know what I mean? He's allowed to, I guess, be punished, but not be, like, destroyed or eliminated from the business, right? Like, you just move on. Maybe you learn from your mistakes. I also like how at the end, like, you know, when Effie does sing lead on that final song, like, it really is, like, much, much better than the original version. You know what I mean? It, like, stands out with her powerful vocals and stuff like that. And how everything just sort of came together. Like, this is a nice, wholesome, heartwarming film. This is probably, like, the most innocent film we've ever reviewed. As far as, like, deep themes, like, the themes are mostly just about, like, dreams. What does it mean to have a dream? When should we let go of dreams? What are more important, our friends or our own personal goals and ambitions? So those are, like, the themes of the movie. It's cool. And, overall, I give the film, like, an 8. Like, it's a good film. I just didn't like some of the songs. And I wish maybe some of the songs were cut and just had some acting instead. But... yeah, what did you think?
Were you final score?
My final score was like an 8.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I love this movie because it's so warm. And yeah, the themes are not like that deep. It's like how far you're willing to go in order to pursue, your passion. And also how far are you willing to go without sacrificing it from yourself, in terms of Effie.
Yeah.
But it does have like certain sub themes in there, like about the show business, about Hollywood, and that includes like racial, differences, but also like class differences as well. Yeah, so I really like it. I agree with you on the fact that like, yeah, not every song is a hit, but I feel like every song has a part in the story.
Yeah.
My score is gonna be like 9.9. Okay,
9.
I'm gonna give it a 9. Yes.
You're gonna give it a 9.
And I might be biased, but I just love this movie.
It's okay. It's all right to have a little bit of bias sometimes with films that you grew up with, you love, and that you have good memories. This is like a good movie to like show like teens, young adults, kids, even if they like music. You know what I mean? Like it's a good wholesome film. You can't go wrong with the audience you played in front of, which is not normal for us because we watched Eyes of My Mother and Irreversible and I Stand Alone. You know what I mean? So this is different for us, but I liked it too. You know what I mean? So yeah, overall, any other comments?
No.
No? All right. So this is Dreamgirls episode 102 of Akmon Movie Reviews. And if you have a film you want us to review, put it in the comments. Let us know what you think we should talk about next. Subscribe also to Backpack Bandits, our travel content channel. And be easy out there. Peace.